The moment I saw Janet whispering to my wife across the backyard, I knew something was coming. Call it instinct. Call it pattern recognition from 15 years of marriage. Call it the way Melissa's eyes kept darting toward me while pretending to flip burgers on our brand new grill, the one I'd bought her for our anniversary because she'd complained about the old one for 6 months straight. I was nursing a beer by the fence, watching our neighbors pretend to enjoy themselves at what Melissa had insisted was a casual summer gathering. Nothing about my wife was casual. Every napkin matched, every playlist was curated, every guest served a purpose in her carefully constructed social hierarchy. "Dave!" Melissa's voice cut through the evening air like a knife through butter. "Can you come here for a second?" I took my time walking over. The grass was freshly cut. I'd done it that morning at 6 because Melissa said the lawn guy wasn't detail-oriented enough. My auto repair shop had been slammed all week, but God forbid our lawn have uneven edges when Janet and her crew came over. The circle of women parted as I approached. Janet, Marie, and 3 others whose names I could never quite remember. They all had that same look, expensive highlights, yoga pants that cost more than my work boots, and smiles that never quite reached their eyes. "What's up?" I asked, keeping my voice neutral. Melissa set down her spatula with theatrical precision. "We need to talk." "About?" "About us." She gestured between us like there was something visible hanging in the air. "About how this isn't working anymore." I took a sip of my beer, waited. The women shifted their weight, excited energy barely contained. This was planned, rehearsed even. "I want a divorce," Melissa continued, her voice gaining confidence. "I've been unhappy for a long time, and I think you know that." "Do I?" "Don't play dumb, Dave. You're never here. You're always at that garage, covered in grease, smelling like motor oil. I need someone who understands my world, someone with ambition." Janet actually smirked. Marie had her phone out, probably texting the other vultures who couldn't make it. "Someone like Brad?" I asked quietly. The color drained from Melissa's face for just a second before she recovered. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Brad Morrison, sales director at your company, drives a blue BMW, has that weird thing where he laughs at his own jokes before anyone else does." The backyard had gone silent. Even the music seemed to fade. "You've been sleeping with him for what, 3 months now? 4? I took another drink, watching her face cycle through denial, anger, and something like fear. The Marriott downtown, mostly. Sometimes that boutique place on 5th Street. "You're not as careful as you think, Melissa." "How dare you?" "I dare because I've got the credit card statements, the text messages you thought you deleted, the photos Marie here accidentally sent to the wrong group chat last month." I nodded at Marie, who looked like she wanted to disappear into the patio stones. "You remember Marie? You and Janet at that hotel bar? And guess who was in the background with his tongue down my wife's throat?" "You're pathetic," Janet spat, "spying on your own wife." "I'm thorough. Comes with the job. People bring me broken things. I figure out what's wrong. I fix them or tell them they're totaled." I looked at Melissa. "You're totaled." "Get out," Melissa hissed. "This is my house. Our house. My name's on the deed too, but you know what?" I set my beer down on the patio table, making sure to not use a coaster. Melissa's eye twitched. "I'm done. You want Brad? Have him. You want this house, these friends, this whole fake-ass life? It's yours." I expected yelling. Tears, maybe. Instead, Melissa smiled, the kind of smile a shark gives right before it bites. "Good, because Brad's already moved in his things. They're in the garage." That stopped me. "What?" "You heard me. While you were at work this week, playing with your little cars, I was moving on with my life. Brad and I are together now, publicly. And honestly, Dave, everyone's relieved. You were always such a downer at these things." The women laughed. Actually laughed, like this was the funniest thing they'd heard all year. I looked around the backyard, at the grill I'd bought, the fence I'd repaired, The garden beds I'd built because Melissa wanted to get into herbs for about 3 weeks before losing interest. My daughter Emma's old swing set stood in the corner, rusting now that she was away at college. "Okay," I said simply. The laughter ceased. Melissa's smile wavered. "Okay?" Janet repeated. "That's it?" "That's it. I'm not going to beg. I'm not going to make a scene. You win, Melissa. Enjoy your freedom." I pulled my keys from my pocket and removed the house key from the ring, set it on the patio table next to my sweating beer bottle. "I'll send a lawyer to work out the details." I walked through my house, our house, for what I thought might be the last time. Grabbed my laptop bag from the office, a few changes of clothes from the bedroom, and my grandfather's watch from the dresser. In the garage, sure enough, there were boxes marked Brad in Melissa's perfect handwriting. I took a photo of them with my phone. Then I took photos of the labels, the contents I could see, and the fact that they were stacked right next to my toolbox, like they owned the place. As I loaded my truck, I could hear the party resuming behind me. Louder now, more animated. They were probably already rewriting history, turning me into the villain of their story. The absent husband, the boring mechanic, the guy who couldn't satisfy his ambitious wife. Let them talk. I pulled out of the driveway and headed toward Mike's boxing gym on the east side of town. Mike had been my friend since high school, back when we both thought we'd make something of ourselves in the ring. He'd gone 3 rounds with a ranked middleweight before a torn rotator cuff ended his career. I'd gone into the army, served my time, and come home to open a garage. The gym was in a converted warehouse, all exposed brick and heavy bags hanging from chains. It smelled like sweat and liniment and honest work. Mike was in his office, going over paperwork with reading glasses perched on his nose. "Dave?" He looked up, took in my expression. "What happened?" "Melissa threw me out, in front of her friends. Apparently she's been screwing some guy from her office and decided to make our divorce a public performance." Mike closed his ledger. "You need a place to stay?" "Just for tonight. I'll figure something out tomorrow." "You can stay as long as you need. I've got that apartment upstairs. It's not much, but it's yours." He stood up, came around the desk. "You okay?" "I'm fine." "Bullshit. You look like you want to hit something." "I do, but I'm not going to." "Why not?" "I've got bags, I've got gloves. Hell, I'll hold pads for you." I shook my head, because if I start hitting things, I might not stop, and I need to think clearly right now. Mike studied me for a long moment. "You've got that look." "What look?" "The one you had in high school before you fought Tommy Rodriguez. The one you had before you enlisted. The one that says you're not beaten. You're planning." I managed a smile. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Sure you don't. Come on, I'll show you the apartment." The space above the gym was sparse. A studio with a kitchenette, a bathroom, and a Murphy bed that looked like it had seen better days. But it was clean, and it was quiet, and it was mine. I set my bag down and pulled out my laptop. Started going through files I'd been collecting for the past 6 weeks, ever since I'd found the first hotel receipt in Melissa's purse. She'd been sloppy, confident in my ignorance. Text messages, photos, credit card statements, a whole digital trail of betrayal. But more than that, I had information. See, when you run a small business, you learn things. You network. You know people who know people. And when your wife works in HR at a tech startup, and she's been falsifying harassment complaints to protect her boyfriend, and she's been using company resources for personal expenses, well, that's the kind of information that could be useful. My phone buzzed. Emma, my daughter. "Dad, what the hell? Mom says you stormed out and abandoned her at a party?" "That's not exactly how it happened." "She says you've been spying on her, that you accused her of cheating in front of all her friends." "She is cheating. With Brad Morrison. Has been for months." Silence on the other end. Then, "I don't believe you." "Emma, Mom said you'd try to turn me against her. She said you'd make up lies because you're jealous of her success. God, Dad, I thought you were better than this. I have proof. I don't want to see it. I don't want to be in the middle of this. Just leave Mom alone, okay? She deserves to be happy. The line went silent. I stared at my phone for a long time. Emma was 18, about to start her sophomore year at State. Melissa had been working on her all summer, I realized. Planting seeds, preparing the ground. This wasn't spontaneous. This was a campaign. My phone buzzed again, a group text from a number I didn't recognize. You're embarrassing yourself. Move on. Then another. Melissa's better off without you. And another. Everyone knows you were holding her back. I typed out a response. You ain't seen embarrassing yet. Stay tuned. Then I turned off my phone, opened a beer from Mike's mini fridge, and started making a list. The Riverside Diner smelled like coffee and regret at 6 in the morning. I'd been coming here since high school, back when it was the only place open early enough to grab breakfast before first period. The booths were the same cracked vinyl, the counter still had that long crack running down the middle, and Doris still worked the morning shift despite being approximately 150 years old. Dave. She poured coffee without asking. Heard about you and Melissa. Word travels fast. Honey, word traveled at light speed. Janet was in here yesterday afternoon, telling anyone who'd listen about how you lost it at the barbecue. Doris leaned against the counter. Said you accused Melissa of all sorts of things. Made a real scene. That's not how it happened. I figured Janet's got a mouth on her that could strip paint. She pulled out her order pad. The usual? Yeah. Thanks, Doris. I watched the sun rise through the grimy windows while I waited for my eggs and toast. My phone, turned back on at 5 a.m., had 37 new messages. Most were from numbers I didn't recognize. A few were from people I'd considered friends. Tom Henderson, Janet's husband. Man, I don't know what happened, but maybe give Melissa some space. Rick Patterson, who I'd helped rebuild an engine for his classic Mustang. Heard you're going through some stuff. Probably best if we don't hang out for a while. Janet and Melissa are tight with my wife. Sarah Chen from the Business Owners Association. Dave, I'm sorry, but I can't be seen taking sides in this. You understand. One by one, my social circle was evaporating. Melissa's influence, spreading like poison through our small town's interconnected web of relationships. There was one message that stood out, though. From Emily Wright, Melissa's best friend since college. I'm so sorry this is happening. If you need to talk, I'm here. I remembered Emily. She'd worked at my shop briefly, years ago, maybe 7, 8 years back. Smart woman, good with numbers, but she'd been skimming from the register. I'd caught her, fired her quietly, didn't press charges because she was Melissa's friend. She'd moved on to HR work at some company across town. I didn't respond to any of them. Doris brought my breakfast. You look like hell. Feel like it too. What are you going to do? Haven't decided yet. She patted my hand. Whatever you do, make it count. I spent the morning at the shop. My business partner Carlos had been holding down the fort, but we had a backlog of work that needed my attention. A transmission rebuild, 2 brake jobs, and a diagnostic on a Chevy that was making a noise its owner described as like an angry cat in a dryer. Carlos found me under the Chevy at noon. Boss, you got a visitor. I rolled out from under the car. Brad Morrison stood in my garage bay, looking distinctly uncomfortable in his designer suit and Italian shoes. His BMW, the one Melissa had been riding in when Marie took that incriminating photo, was parked outside. We need to talk, Brad said. No, we don't. Look, I know this is awkward. Awkward? I stood up, wiping my hands on a rag. Awkward is forgetting someone's name at a party. This is you sleeping with my wife while I was working to pay for the house you're now living in. Brad had the decency to look uncomfortable. Melissa and I didn't mean for it to happen. It just did. Sometimes people connect on a level that... Save the TED Talk, Brad. What do you want? I want you to leave her alone. The texts, the calls. I haven't texted or called her once. The social media posts, then. The comments you're leaving on her friends' pages. I don't have social media. Brad faltered. Well, someone's been posting things. Melissa's upset. Melissa's upset. I laughed, a sound with no humor in it. That's rich. You know what? Tell Melissa I hope you two are very happy together. Tell her I hope every day with you is exactly what she deserves. That sounds like a threat. It's a blessing. Now get out of my shop before I decide your BMW needs a very thorough inspection, the kind where I find all sorts of expensive problems. Brad left. I watched him go, watched him check his car nervously before getting in, watched him drive away just a little too fast. Carlos appeared at my elbow. You okay? Fine. You're smiling. That's not a good smile. I'm just thinking. About what? About how people like Brad think they're untouchable. How they think they can take whatever they want without consequences. Dave, I'm not going to do anything stupid, Carlos, I promise. But I was going to do something. I just hadn't figured out what yet. That night, I went to Sullivan's bar, the local dive where the blue-collar crowd gathered after work. It was dark, sticky, and honest. Nobody here cared about HR positions or tech startups or who was sleeping with whom, except they did, apparently. I'd barely sat down when Jerry Mullins, a plumber I'd known for years, moved to a different table. Then Amy Rodriguez, who ran the hardware store, suddenly remembered she had to be somewhere else. By the time I finished my first beer, I was sitting alone in a bar that had been my refuge for 20 years. The bartender, a guy named Steve who'd been pouring drinks here since before I was born, leaned across the bar. On the house, he said, sliding me another beer. For losers only. Funny. I'm serious. Melissa's been in here twice this week with her new boyfriend. Telling everyone who'll listen about how you were controlling, jealous, abusive even. Abusive? Her word, not mine. I know you, Dave. You wouldn't hurt a fly unless it really deserved it. But she's convincing. Got that way of talking that makes people believe her. She's good at that. What are you going to do? Everyone keeps asking me that. Because everyone wants to know if they should take cover. I took a long drink. I'm going to let her think she won, let her get comfortable, let her think I'm beaten. And then? And then I'm going to show her what beaten really looks like. Steve grinned. Now that's the Dave I remember. I went home, to Mike's gym, to my borrowed apartment, and opened my laptop. Started going through everything I'd collected. The evidence of Melissa's affair was damning enough, but it was what I found in her work emails that really interested me. See, Melissa had made a mistake. She'd logged into her work email on our home computer, and she'd checked the Remember Me box. I had full access to months of correspondence, and what I found was a goldmine. Falsified harassment complaints against employees Brad didn't like, manipulated performance reviews, misuse of company funds for personal expenses, restaurants, hotels, even a weekend trip to wine country that was billed as a team-building exercise, but was just Melissa and Brad. But the real treasure was buried deeper. Email chains between Melissa and Emily Wright, and they went back years to right after I'd fired Emily for stealing. He humiliated me, Emily had written, treated me like a criminal over a few $100s. He's always been like that, Melissa had replied. Rigid, unforgiving. Sometimes I wonder why I married him. You deserve better, Emily wrote back. And then, months later, I found someone perfect for you, Brad Morrison. He just started at our company. Ambitious, handsome, and he's already noticed you. The emails painted a clear picture. Emily hadn't just known about the affair. She'd orchestrated it. She'd introduced Melissa and Brad, encouraged the relationship, even provided alibis and cover stories. This wasn't just about Melissa cheating. This was revenge, years in the making, and my wife had been a willing participant. I sat back, staring at the screen. The betrayal went deeper than I'd thought. This wasn't spontaneous passion or a midlife crisis. This was calculated destruction. My phone buzzed. Emma, calling instead of texting. Dad? Hey, sweetheart. I saw something. Her voice was small, younger than her 18 years. On Mom's Instagram. She and Brad are posting pictures together, like couple pictures, with captions about new beginnings and finding real love. I'm sorry you had to see that. Is it true? What you said about them? Yeah, it's true. Silence. Then, why didn't you fight for her? Because you can't fight for someone who doesn't want to be fought for. Your mom made her choice. She's making me look stupid. All my friends are seeing these posts. They're asking me questions. And she's painting you as this terrible person. But the mom in these photos isn't the mom I know. She's different. Meaner. Power does that to people. Makes them think they're invincible. What are you going to do? There was that question again. I'm going to make sure the truth comes out. That's all. Dad, don't do anything crazy. I won't. I promise. How's school? It's fine. I miss when things were normal. Me too, kiddo. Me too. After we hung up, I went back to the emails, started taking screenshots, organizing them into folders, building a case file like I was preparing for trial. Because in a way, I was. Mike knocked on my door around midnight. You're still up? Can't sleep. I can hear you typing through the floor. It's like living above a very angry secretary. He came in, looked at my laptop screen. What are you working on? Research. Dave, I'm not going to do anything illegal. I'm not going to hurt anyone. I'm just making sure I have all the information. Information for what? For when the time comes. Mike sat down on the edge of my Murphy bed. You remember Tommy Rodriguez? The guy I fought in high school? Yeah. You remember what you did to him? I beat him in 3 rounds. You destroyed him. You studied him for weeks, learned his patterns, his tells, his weaknesses, and then you took him apart piece by piece in front of the whole school. He transferred the next year. Your point? My point is, you're doing it again. You're in planning mode, and when you get like this, someone always ends up broken. Good, I said. Because I'm already broken, might as well spread it around. The town's annual charity fundraiser was held at the Riverside Community Center on the first Saturday of September. It was one of those events where everyone who was anyone showed up to be seen being charitable. Melissa had been on the planning committee for 3 years running. I bought a ticket. Carlos thought I was insane. Boss, why would you go there? It's going to be all her people. Exactly. That's not a good reason. It's a great reason. They think I'm beaten. They think I'm hiding. Time to remind them I'm not. I wore my good suit, the one I'd bought for Emma's high school graduation. Got a haircut. Shaved. Looked like a respectable member of society instead of a grease monkey who spent his days under cars. The community center was decorated within an inch of its life. String lights, flower arrangements, a silent auction table loaded with donated items. Melissa had outdone herself. She was holding court near the bar, Brad at her side like an accessory. She'd lost weight, I noticed. Her hair was different, lighter, more styled. She looked happy in that brittle performance art way that meant she was anything but. Janet spotted me first. I watched her lean over and whisper to Melissa, watched Melissa's face go through a series of expressions before settling on disdain. I got a drink, just a club soda, I wanted to stay sharp, and circulated, said hello to people I'd known for years. Most were uncomfortable, didn't know where to look. A few were openly hostile. You've got some nerve showing up here, Marie said, blocking my path to the appetizer table. It's a public event. I bought a ticket. After what you did to Melissa, what I did? That's interesting. Tell me, Marie, what exactly did I do? You accused her of cheating. In front of everyone, you humiliated her. I stated facts. She was cheating. She still is. I gestured toward where Melissa and Brad were standing. Evidence suggests she's quite happy about it. You're pathetic. So I've been told. Excuse me, I'd like some of those little quiches. I made my way through the crowd, letting people see me, letting them whisper. Melissa's eyes tracked me the whole time, and I could see the calculation happening. She'd expected me to stay away, to hide in shame. My presence was throwing off her narrative. The evening's program started at 8. There were speeches about community, about giving back, about making a difference. Melissa was introduced as one of the event organizers, and she took the stage to applause. "Thank you all for coming," she began, her voice smooth and practiced. "Tonight is about supporting our community, about being there for each other in times of need. It's about showing up, even when things are difficult." She looked directly at me on that last part. The message was clear. I was the difficulty. I was the problem that needed to be overcome. I waited until she was mid-sentence, talking about the importance of integrity, and then I stood up. Didn't say anything, just stood there in the middle of the room. Melissa faltered. "As I was saying," I started walking toward the stage. Slowly, deliberately. Every eye in the room was on me. "Sir, please sit down," someone said. Maybe the event coordinator. I reached the stage, looked up at Melissa. "Can I say something?" "This isn't the time." "I think it is. You're talking about integrity, about showing up, about being there for each other. I'd like to add to that." Brad was moving toward me, his face red. "You need to leave." "In a minute." I turned to address the room. My wife is right about a lot of things. Community is important. Integrity matters. And the truth, well, the truth is everything. "Dave, don't," Melissa said from the stage, her voice tight. "Don't what?" "Don't tell everyone that you've been sleeping with Brad for the past 4 months. Don't mention that you're using company funds to pay for your hotel rooms. Don't bring up the fact that you've been falsifying workplace harassment complaints to protect your boyfriend's job." The room went silent. You could have heard a pin drop on the hardwood floor. "You're lying," Melissa said, but her voice wavered. "Am I? Because I have emails. I have credit card statements. I have text messages. I have photos." I pulled out my phone. "Would you like me to share them? We could put them up on that nice projector screen, make it a real community event." Brad grabbed my arm. "That's enough." I looked down at his hand on my arm, then up at his face. "You want to do this here? Now? In front of everyone?" "I want you to leave my girlfriend alone." "Your girlfriend? That's cute." "Tell me, Brad, does your boss know you've been using company resources for personal use? Does he know about the fake harassment complaints? Because I'm pretty sure that's grounds for termination, maybe even legal action." Brad's face went from red to pale. "You don't know what you're talking about." "I know exactly what I'm talking about. I've spent the last month documenting everything. Every hotel stay, every dinner, every lie you two have told. And I've sent it all to someone very interested in workplace ethics violations." That was a bluff. I hadn't sent anything yet, but Brad didn't know that. Melissa came down from the stage. "You're trying to ruin my life." "No, Melissa. I'm just making sure everyone sees the real you. The one who cheats on her husband, manipulates her friends, and breaks the rules when they're inconvenient. You wanted to humiliate me at that barbecue? Consider this my RSVP." I turned and walked out. Behind me, the silence erupted into chaos. Voices raised, questions shouted, the sound of Melissa crying. I didn't look back. Outside, the night air was cool and clean. I sat in my truck for a moment, hands shaking from adrenaline, and waited. 5 minutes later, my phone rang. Emily Wright. "Dave, I heard what happened. Are you okay?" "I'm fine. That was brave. What you did in there. It was necessary. Listen, I know we haven't talked much since I left your shop, but I want you to know I'm on your side. What Melissa did to you, it's not right." "Thanks, Emily. If you need anything, I mean it. A place to stay, someone to talk to, whatever." I appreciate that. After we hung up, I sat there thinking. Emily's sudden support was interesting. Convenient even. Almost like she was trying to position herself as an ally. I pulled up those old emails again, read through them one more time. Emily's fingerprints were all over this situation, but she was playing the concerned friend now. The question was, why? My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. You're going to regret that. Then another, Melissa's lawyer is going to destroy you. And another, you just made the biggest mistake of your life. I typed back to all of them. No, I just got started. The next morning, I went to the bank. Moved half of our joint savings into a new account in my name only. It was within my legal rights. The money was half mine. But I knew it would cause problems. Then I called the company that handled Emma's tuition payments and put a hold on the automatic withdrawals. Emma was 18, legally an adult. If Melissa wanted to keep paying for school, she could do it from her own accounts. Then I went to see a lawyer. Not for the divorce, that would come later, but for something else. I need to file a formal complaint with my wife's company, I told the attorney, a sharp-eyed woman named Patricia Vance. I have evidence of workplace misconduct, misuse of funds, and falsified HR documents. Patricia reviewed the emails I'd printed out. This is substantial. You understand that filing this complaint could result in your wife losing her job? I understand. And you're sure you want to do this? Once it's filed, there's no taking it back. I'm sure. She nodded. I'll draft the complaint today. We'll send it to their CEO and their legal department. With evidence this clear, they'll have to investigate. How long will that take? Depends on the company. But typically, when there's this much documentation, they move fast. They won't want liability. I left Patricia's office feeling lighter than I had in weeks. The pieces were moving. The trap was closing. That afternoon, I got a call from Melissa. What did you do? She was crying, her voice ragged. I filed a complaint with your company about the misconduct. You bastard, you absolute bastard. They've suspended me pending investigation. Do you know what that means? My career is over. Your career was over the moment you decided to break the rules. I just made sure the right people knew about it. This is revenge. Pure revenge. No, this is consequences. There's a difference. I'll destroy you in the divorce. I'll take everything. The house, the business, Emma. Emma's an adult. She makes her own choices. And the house? Keep it. I don't want anything that reminds me of you. You're going to regret this. Probably. But not as much as you're going to regret underestimating me. I hung up. That night, I couldn't sleep. Kept replaying the conversation, the look on Melissa's face at the fundraiser, the way Brad had grabbed my arm, the way the whole town had watched our marriage implode in real time. Mike found me in the gym at 2 a.m, hitting the heavy bag with wrapped hands. You're going to hurt yourself. Don't care. Yeah, you do. He held the bag steady. Talk to me. I ruined her career today, filed a formal complaint with her company. She's suspended. How do you feel about that? I don't know. Satisfied? Guilty? Both? That's normal. You're not a bad person, Dave. Bad people don't feel guilty. Then why does this feel so terrible? Because you loved her once. Because this isn't who you wanted to be. But she made choices, and those choices have consequences. You're just making sure those consequences happen. I hit the bag one more time, then stopped. My knuckles were bleeding through the wraps. I found something else, I said. In the emails, Emily Wright, Melissa's best friend, she set this whole thing up. Introduced Melissa to Brad, encouraged the affair, provided cover. It was revenge for me firing her years ago. Mike whistled low. That's cold. And now Emily's trying to be my friend, offering support, playing the concerned ally. What are you going to do about it? I'm going to let her think it's working, let her get close, and then I'm going to make sure everyone knows what she did. You're playing a dangerous game. I know, but I'm tired of being the victim in everyone else's story. Time to write my own ending. Emily Wright showed up at my shop 3 days later with coffee and sympathy. I thought you could use a friend, she said, handing me a cup from the expensive place downtown. Thanks. That's thoughtful. I heard about Melissa's suspension. That must have been difficult for you. It was necessary. We sat in my office, surrounded by invoices and parts catalogs. Emily looked out of place in her designer clothes and perfect makeup, like a swan that had accidentally landed in a junkyard. Can I ask you something? She said. Why now? Why did you decide to fight back after all this time? Because I was tired of being the joke, tired of watching her parade around with Brad like I didn't matter, tired of being erased from my own life. I get that. Melissa always did have a way of making everything about her. You two have been friends for a long time. Since college. But honestly, Dave, I've seen sides of her lately that I don't like. The way she's been treating you, the things she's been saying, it's not right. I sipped my coffee. What kind of things? She's been telling people you were controlling, that you kept her from pursuing her dreams, that you were emotionally abusive. None of that's true. I know, I was at your house plenty of times. I saw how you were together. You were good to her. Too good, probably. Why are you telling me this? Emily leaned forward. Because I think you deserve to know what you're up against. Melissa's building a narrative, and she's very convincing. She's got Janet and Marie backing her up, and they're spreading stories all over town. Let them talk. It's more than talk, Dave. She's planning something. I don't know what, but I heard her on the phone with her lawyer. She's going to come after you hard in the divorce. I expected that. I'm just saying, you might want to be prepared. Document everything. Keep records. Don't give her any ammunition. After Emily left, I sat in my office and thought about the conversation. She was good. I'd give her that. The concerned friend, the inside source, the ally in enemy territory. If I didn't know about her role in orchestrating the affair, I might have believed her. But I did know. And that meant her sudden friendship was part of a larger plan. I pulled up her emails again, went back further this time. Found correspondence between Emily and Brad from before the affair started. She's perfect for you, Emily had written. Smart, beautiful, ambitious, and her husband is a complete loser. She deserves better. You really think she'd be interested? Brad had replied. I know she would. I've been laying the groundwork for months. Trust me, this is going to work. So, Emily had been playing matchmaker. But why? Just revenge for being fired. That seemed extreme. I kept digging. Found emails between Emily and someone named Richard Chen at Melissa's company. They were discussing HR policies, complaint procedures, ways to document misconduct. If we can get enough complaints on record, Emily wrote, we can force them to take action, even if the complaints are exaggerated. You're sure about this? Richard replied. Falsifying reports is serious. I'm not falsifying anything. I'm just helping people remember things more clearly. There's a difference. The picture was getting clearer. Emily wasn't just orchestrating Melissa's affair. She was actively trying to damage the company from the inside. But why? I did some research. Turns out Emily had applied for a position at Melissa's company 2 years ago and been rejected. The position had gone to Brad Morrison instead. So this wasn't just about me. This was about Emily's wounded pride, her jealousy, her need to prove she was smarter than everyone else. She'd turned my marriage into a weapon, used my wife as a pawn, and was now trying to position herself as my savior. I called Patricia Vance. I need to amend that complaint I filed. I have additional evidence. What kind of evidence? The kind that shows a third party was actively encouraging and facilitating the misconduct, someone with a grudge against the company. Send it over. I'll review it and update the filing. That night, I got a call from Emma. She was crying. Dad, Mom's apartment got broken into. Someone trashed the place, wrote horrible things on the walls. Is she okay? She's scared. The police are there now. She thinks you did it. Emma, I didn't. I know. I told her you wouldn't do something like that. But Dad, someone did. Someone spray-painted homewrecker on her bedroom wall. Destroyed her clothes. It's bad. Where are you? At the apartment. The police want to talk to you. I drove to Melissa's new place, a upscale complex on the north side of town, paid for with money from our joint account. There were 2 police cars out front, lights flashing. Officer Ramirez met me in the parking lot. Mr. Davidson, we need to ask you some questions. I didn't do this. Where were you between 6 and 8 p.m. tonight? At Mike's gym. I was working out, then I was in my apartment. Mike can confirm. Anyone else see you? There were maybe a dozen people at the gym. They can all verify I was there. Ramirez nodded. We'll check that out. Your wife seems convinced you're responsible. My wife is building a narrative. This fits perfectly into it, doesn't it? The crazy ex-husband, stalking and vandalizing. Except I didn't do it. Then who did? I don't know. But I'd suggest looking at her boyfriend. Maybe he's not as stable as he seems. I went upstairs. Melissa's apartment was indeed trashed. Furniture overturned, clothes shredded, and homewrecker spray-painted in red across her bedroom wall. Melissa was sitting on the couch, wrapped in a thick blanket, with Janet and Marie flanking her like protective bodyguards. Their faces were hard, like they were ready to defend her from any perceived threat. The tension in the room was palpable, and it was clear that this wasn't going to be a simple conversation. How could you? Melissa's voice cracked as she looked up at me, her eyes filled with accusation. I didn't do this, I replied, trying to keep my voice steady, though a part of me wondered if she believed that at all. Liar, you've been threatening me, harassing me. Melissa's words came out in a rush, the anger in her tone escalating. I've done no such thing, I countered, my patience wearing thin. I filed a legitimate complaint with your company. That's not harassment. That's holding you accountable for your actions. There's a big difference. You're trying to destroy my life, she spat, her eyes narrowing in what seemed like a mixture of fear and rage. No, Melissa, I'm not trying to destroy anything. I'm just making sure the truth comes out. The truth that you've been trying so hard to bury. There's a difference between destroying and exposing, and right now, I'm just exposing you for who you really are. My words hung in the air between us, sharp and heavy. Before she could respond, Brad, who had been hiding out in the bedroom, finally emerged. His face was red, and his posture was defensive. You need to leave, he demanded, stepping into the room with a tone that left no room for argument. I was invited by the police, I replied, my gaze never leaving his. And unless you want to argue with them, I'd suggest you step aside. You're not welcome here, he shot back, his voice barely controlled. Good thing I don't want to be here, I said flatly, turning my attention back to Officer Ramirez, who had been standing silently by the door, watching the exchange with professional detachment. I'll provide you with a list of everyone who can verify my whereabouts tonight, and I'd suggest you check the security cameras in this building. I'm sure they'll show that I was nowhere near this place. I gave one last look at Melissa as I turned to leave. She was sitting there, shaking, her face buried in her hands. The sound of her sobbing echoed in my ears as I stepped out the door. Part of me felt bad for her. No one deserved to have their home violated like that. But another part of me wondered if this was Emily's doing. Was this another piece in her elaborate game? The thought gnawed at me, but there was no way to be sure yet. As I climbed into my truck, I immediately pulled out my phone and dialed Emily's number. I needed to know if she had anything to do with this mess. Emily, did you hear about Melissa's apartment? I asked, as soon as she picked up. What about it? She replied, her voice calm, though I could sense a hint of curiosity. Someone broke in, trashed the place, wrote homewrecker on her wall. There was a pause on the other end, followed by a sharp intake of breath. Oh my God, is she okay? Emily asked, her voice laden with concern, or was it feigned? She's shaken up, thinks I did it, I said, my frustration rising again. Did you? Emily asked, her tone neutral but with a slight edge to it. No, I replied, the answer firm. I was at the gym, but someone did, and I'm wondering who benefits from making me look like an unhinged stalker. Who stands to gain from this mess? Another long silence followed. This time I could almost hear her thinking, weighing her words carefully before responding. I don't know, she said finally, her voice betraying nothing. But whoever did it, they're playing a dangerous game. I sighed, slumping back in my seat. Yeah, and I think I'm stuck in the middle of it. Keep me updated, Emily added before hanging up. I sat there for a moment, staring at the phone in my hand. The web of lies and manipulation was thickening, and I was right in the center of it. But who was behind it? Who was pulling the strings? Dave, what are you implying? I'm not implying anything. I'm just thinking out loud. You've been very helpful lately, very supportive. It's almost like you're trying to position yourself as my friend while simultaneously making sure I look guilty of something. That's ridiculous. Is it? Because I've been doing some research, Emily. I know about your emails to Brad. I know you set up the affair. I know you've been sabotaging Melissa's company from the inside, and I'm starting to think you're not done yet. The line went silent. I sat in my truck, engine running, and waited. 10 minutes later, Emily called back. We need to talk, in person. I'm listening. Not on the phone. Meet me at the old factory on Industrial Road. Tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Why there? Because it's private. Because I'm tired of playing games. Because you deserve to know the truth. She hung up before I could respond. I called Patricia Vance. I need you to do something for me. What? I need you to file an amended complaint with Melissa's company. Include everything about Emily Wright. And I need you to do it tomorrow morning, before 8 a.m. That's fast. It needs to be. Trust me. The next day crawled by. I worked on cars, answered customer questions, and tried not to think about the meeting with Emily. But my mind kept circling back to it, running through scenarios, preparing for whatever she had planned. At 7:30, I drove to the old factory. It was a relic from the town's industrial past, abandoned for 20 years, all broken windows and rusted metal. The perfect place for a confrontation. I parked and waited. At exactly 8 p.m., Emily's car pulled up. She got out, looked around nervously, and walked toward the entrance. I followed her inside. The factory floor was vast and empty, lit only by the streetlights filtering through the broken windows. Our footsteps echoed on the concrete. You came? Emily said. You asked me to. I want to make you an offer. I'm listening. I can make all of this go away. The investigation, the divorce drama, all of it. I have connections. I can make sure Melissa's complaint against you gets buried. I can even help you get a better settlement. In exchange for what? For your silence about the emails, about my role in all of this. You keep quiet, and I'll make sure you come out of this divorce better than you went in. And if I don't? Emily's expression hardened. Then I'll make sure everyone knows what you did. The vandalism, the stalking, the harassment. I'll bury you, Dave. I'll make sure you lose everything. Your business, your daughter, your reputation. You'll be the villain in this story, and I'll be the hero who tried to save you from yourself. You've thought this through. I've had years to think it through. You humiliated me when you fired me, treated me like a criminal. This is payback. For $300? For making me feel small. For making me feel worthless. For treating me like I didn't matter. I pulled out my phone. Here's the thing, Emily. I've been recording this conversation, and I've already filed an amended complaint with Melissa's company, detailing your role in everything. By now, their legal team has seen the evidence. They know what you did. Emily's face went white. You're bluffing. Am I? Check your email. I bet you have a message from their legal department. She pulled out her phone with shaking hands, opened her email. I watched the color drain from her face. You bastard. No, Emily. I'm just someone who's tired of being manipulated. You wanted to play games? Congratulations. You lost. She lunged at me. I'd been expecting it. Emily had always been impulsive, and I sidestepped easily. She stumbled, caught herself on a rusted support beam. This isn't over, she hissed. Yes, it is. You're done. Your career is over, your reputation is destroyed, and everyone is going to know what you did. I walked out of the factory, leaving Emily standing alone in the shadows. Behind me, I heard her scream in frustration, the sound echoing off the empty walls. The town's annual block party was the social event of the fall season. Main Street was closed off, vendors set up booths, and a stage was erected for local bands and community announcements. Everyone attended. It was practically mandatory if you wanted to be part of the town's social fabric. I bought a vendor booth. Carlos thought I'd finally lost my mind. Boss, what are you going to sell at a block party? Transmission fluid? I'm not selling anything. I'm making an announcement. What kind of announcement? The kind that's going to end this once and for all. The day of the block party was perfect. Clear skies, mild temperature, the kind of day that made you forget winter was coming. I set up my booth with a simple banner, Davidson Auto Repair, handed out business cards, chatted with customers, and I waited. Melissa arrived at noon with Brad. She'd lost more weight, looked almost fragile in her designer sundress. Brad was wearing sunglasses and a polo shirt, trying to look casual, but coming off as nervous. They saw me. Melissa's expression cycled through surprise, anger, and something like fear. Janet and Marie were with them, forming their usual protective circle. But I noticed the circle was smaller now. Some of the friends had drifted away, probably sensing that Melissa's ship was sinking. Emma showed up an hour later. She'd driven home from college specifically for this event, though I hadn't known she was coming. Dad, what are you doing here? Working, networking, being part of the community? Mom's freaking out. She thinks you're going to cause a scene. I'm just here to tell the truth, Emma, that's all. What truth? You'll see. I promise. By the end of today, you'll understand everything. At 3 p.m., the mayor took the stage to make announcements, community updates, upcoming events, recognition for local businesses. I waited until he was done, then I walked up to the stage. Excuse me, Mayor. Can I say a few words? He looked confused but nodded. Sure, Dave. Keep it brief. I took the microphone, looked out at the crowd. Hundreds of people, all the town's social circles represented. Melissa was near the front, Brad beside her, looking like she wanted to disappear. Hi, everyone. I'm Dave Davidson. Most of you know me. I run the auto shop on 5th Street. Some of you have been customers. Some of you have been friends. And some of you have been spreading rumors about me for the past few months. Nervous laughter rippled through the crowd. I'm not here to complain about that. Rumors are part of small-town life. But I am here to set the record straight about a few things. Melissa started moving toward the stage. Brad grabbed her arm, holding her back. My wife, soon-to-be ex-wife, has been telling people I was controlling, abusive, jealous. That I held her back from her dreams. That I was a terrible husband who deserved to be left. The crowd was silent now, everyone watching. But here's what she didn't tell you. She's been having an affair with her coworker Brad Morrison for the past 6 months. They've been using company funds to pay for hotel rooms. She's been falsifying workplace harassment complaints to protect him. And the whole thing was orchestrated by her best friend Emily Wright as revenge for something that happened years ago. Gasps from the crowd. Melissa's face was bright red. I have proof of all of this. Emails, text messages, credit card statements, photos. I've filed formal complaints with her company. I've provided evidence to their legal team. And I've made sure that everyone involved faces consequences for their actions. You're lying, Melissa shouted from the crowd. Am I? I pulled an envelope from my pocket. This is a DNA test. Emma, your mother told you I was your father. But according to this test, there's a 0% chance that's true. The crowd erupted. Emma's face went white. Melissa started crying. I'm sorry you had to find out this way, Emma. But your mother has been lying to both of us for 18 years. I raised you, I loved you, and I still do. But the truth matters. Brad tried to rush the stage. I saw him coming, sidestepped, and let his momentum carry him past me. He stumbled, fell off the stage into the crowd. People scattered, laughing. One more thing, I said into the microphone. To everyone who believed Melissa's lies, who cut me out of their lives, who treated me like I was the villain in this story, you should be ashamed. You didn't ask questions. You didn't seek the truth. You just went along with the narrative because it was easier. I set the microphone down and walked off the stage. The crowd parted for me like the Red Sea. Behind me, I could hear Melissa sobbing, could hear Janet and Marie trying to comfort her, could hear the buzz of 100 conversations starting at once. Emma caught up with me at my truck. Dad, wait. I turned. She was crying, mascara running down her face. Is it true? About the DNA test? Yes. But you raised me. You're my dad. I am. Biology doesn't change that. I love you, Emma. I always will. But you deserve to know the truth. Why didn't you tell me privately? Because your mother has been using you as a weapon against me. She's been turning you against me with lies. I needed everyone to hear the truth at the same time, so there could be no more manipulation. Emma hugged me, sobbing into my shirt. I'm so sorry. I believed her. I said terrible things to you. I know. It's okay. She's very convincing. What happens now? Now we move forward. You finish school, I rebuild my life, and your mother faces the consequences of her choices. Over Emma's shoulder, I could see Melissa being led away by Brad. Janet and Marie had abandoned her, melting back into the crowd. The circle of friends had finally broken. Emily Wright was nowhere to be seen. I'd heard through Patricia Vance that she'd been fired from her company, was facing potential legal action for her role in the falsified complaints. Her revenge had backfired spectacularly. The next week was chaos. Melissa's company terminated her employment. Brad resigned before he could be fired. The story spread through town like wildfire. Everyone had an opinion, everyone had a take. But the narrative had shifted. I was no longer the villain. I was the wronged husband, the man who'd been betrayed and lied about, who'd fought back with truth instead of violence. My business actually improved. Turns out people like supporting the underdog, especially when the underdog wins. Emma moved back home, to Mike's gym, to the apartment above the boxing ring. We had long talks about trust, about truth, about the complicated nature of family. She was angry at Melissa, hurt by the years of lies, but I encouraged her to maintain a relationship with her mother. She's still your mom, I said. She made terrible choices, but that doesn't mean you have to cut her out of your life. After what she did to you? I'm an adult, I can handle it, but you're her daughter. That bond matters, even when it's damaged. Melissa tried to contact me several times. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. The divorce proceedings were straightforward. She didn't fight for anything, probably because she knew I had enough evidence to bury her if she did. Brad Morrison left town. Last I heard, he'd moved to another state, taken a job with a different company. Probably started the whole cycle over again with someone else's wife. Emily Wright disappeared from social media, from town events, from public life entirely. I heard she'd moved back in with her parents, was working retail somewhere. Her career in HR was over. And me? I kept running my shop, kept boxing at Mike's gym, kept being a father to Emma, even though we didn't share DNA. 6 months after the block party, I was closing up the shop when a woman I didn't recognize walked in. Dave Davidson? That's me. I'm Sarah Mitchell. I write for the Regional Observer. I'd like to do a story about what happened between you and your ex-wife. I'm not interested in being in the newspaper. It's not about publicity. It's about telling the truth. About showing that men can be victims of manipulation and abuse too. About demonstrating that sometimes the person everyone thinks is the villain is actually the hero. I thought about it. What would you want to know? Everything. How it started, how it ended, what you learned. I want to tell your story the right way. Why? Because stories matter. Because the narrative we tell shapes how people think. And right now, your story is being told by other people. Don't you want to tell it yourself? So I did. I sat down with Sarah Mitchell and told her everything, the affair, the betrayal, the revenge, the truth. She wrote an article that ran in the Sunday paper, a long-form piece that detailed the entire saga. The response was overwhelming. Letters of support, messages from other men who'd been through similar situations, even a few apologies from people who'd believed Melissa's lies. But the most important response came from Emma. I read the article, she said over coffee one Saturday morning. I didn't realize how bad it was, how much Mom put you through. It's over now. Is it? Are you really okay? I'm getting there. Some days are harder than others, but I'm not angry anymore. I'm just tired. You should be proud, Dad. You fought back. You won. Did I? Melissa lost her job, her reputation, her friends. Brad's gone. Emily's life is ruined. I'm not sure anyone won. You did. Because you're still standing. Because you didn't let them break you. Maybe she was right. Maybe survival was its own kind of victory. A year after the block party, I sold the house. The one Melissa and I had shared. The one full of memories both good and bad. Used the money to expand my shop, hire 2 more mechanics, and buy a small house near the gym. Emma graduated college with honors. She'd switched her major from business to psychology, said she wanted to help people navigate complicated family dynamics. I was proud of her. Melissa sent a card for Emma's graduation. Inside was a short note. I'm sorry for everything. I hope someday you can forgive me. Emma showed it to me. Should I respond? That's up to you. Forgiveness is personal. No one can tell you when or how to do it. Have you forgiven her? I'm working on it. Some days I think I have. Other days I remember everything and I'm angry all over again. But I'm trying. That's all any of us can do. 2 years after the block party, I was at Sullivan's bar when Tom Henderson sat down next to me. Janet's husband, the one who'd sent that message telling me to give Melissa space. Dave, can I buy you a drink? Sure. He ordered 2 beers. We sat in silence for a moment. I owe you an apology, Tom said. I believed Janet's version of events. I didn't question it, and I should have. It's okay. It's not. Janet was lying to me too, it turns out. She was having her own affair. Marie finally told me about it last month. My whole marriage was built on the same lies as yours. I'm sorry. Don't be. You tried to warn us in your way. You showed us what happens when we ignore the truth. I just wish I'd listened sooner. We drank our beers, talked about sports, about work, about anything except our failed marriages. It was nice, in a strange way. 2 men who'd been on opposite sides of a war, now just trying to figure out what came next. 3 years after the block party, I was at Emma's wedding. She'd met a good guy in grad school, someone who treated her with respect and honesty, someone who understood that trust was earned, not given. Melissa was there too. We didn't talk, just nodded at each other across the reception hall. She looked older, tired, but also somehow lighter, like she'd finally put down a weight she'd been carrying. During the father-daughter dance, Emma whispered, "Thank you for being my dad, for choosing to love me even when you didn't have to." I always had to, I said. From the moment I first held you, you were mine. DNA doesn't change that. I love you, Dad. I love you too, kiddo. As I watched Emma dance with her new husband, watched her smile and laugh and be genuinely happy, I realized something. I'd won. Not because I'd destroyed Melissa, or ruined Emily, or driven Brad out of town. I'd won because I'd survived, because I'd fought for the truth, because I'd refused to be the villain in someone else's story. The revenge I'd taken wasn't about destruction, it was about revelation, about making sure everyone saw the truth, even when the truth was ugly and complicated and painful. And in the end, the truth had set me free. I left Emma's wedding early, drove back to my small house near the gym, and sat on my porch with a beer. The night was clear, stars visible despite the town's light pollution. My phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. You ruined my life. I knew it was from Melissa, or maybe Emily, or maybe one of the others who'd been caught in the blast radius of my revenge. I typed back, "No, you ruined your own life. I just made sure everyone knew about it." Then I blocked the number, finished my beer, and went inside. The devil's last laugh wasn't about cruelty, it was about justice, about making sure that for once the person who'd been wronged got to tell their story, about proving that sometimes the underdog doesn't just survive, they win. And I had won. Not perfectly, not cleanly, but definitively. The story was over, the revenge was complete, and I was finally, truly free.